Were you born in the 60s? I was. We were the generation of kids that rode our bikes until the streetlights came on. We made mixtapes. We watched Saturday morning cartoons in our pajamas on very clunky big televisions. We also chatted to our friends on telephones that were attached to the wall, and they had that extra long cord so that you can sneak off with the handset into the hallway and have a private conversation. And now we are retiring, and our retirement is definitely not our parents' retirement. So let's talk about this. Hi, my name is Raina, and this is Small Retired Life. On my channel, we talk about all things retirement, the ups and the downs, and living in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. Our retirement doesn't look like our parents did because, for one, we're still listening to rock music, or at least some of us are. We're still wearing blue jeans, or at least some of us are. And many of us are still trying to figure out how to retire. It's not like there was some kind of a 2.0 version of retirement manual written just for us. Our parents' retirement was a little bit cliche. Think Florida, think snowbirds, think golfing or puttering in the garden. And there was kind of more of a stability to it, more of an expectation of what was going to happen when they retired. For those of us who were born in the 60s, our retirement looks less like than a walk in the sunset and more like a choose your own adventure. It's like we were the babies that experienced so much change in the decades that we've lived through, and we're now continuing to reinvent ourselves and to embrace that change as we retire. Our parents' generation was born in the 30s and 40s, and there was a pretty predictable path to retirement. You graduated from high school. Some people went to university, but not that many. You got a job for one company and you worked that job for a long time. At the end of your career, you got the handshake, you got a gold watch, and you also got a pretty decent pension. And then you retired off into the sunset. Oftentimes you maybe even moved to a warmer place, but it was really close to where you lived. So for example, my parents moved from Calgary and did the typical Alberta thing and moved to Vancouver Island. That's how it was. For those of us who were born in the 60s and the early 70s, we certainly didn't follow any such plan. We came of age in the late 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and everything was so different. Women entered the workforce at greater numbers than ever before, and they were better educated than their mothers. There was also a significant rise in divorces and single-parent households. And let's not forget technology. Over the next few decades, the tech boom changed everything, absolutely everything that we knew about work. Jobs were lost and then came back with different titles. And then there was the financial crises. Does anyone remember 2008? Because I certainly do. Our careers were patchworks. Our families were complicated. And our finances, well, let's say we just learned how to become very flexible. We've had to navigate the decades differently than our parents did. And now that we're entering retirement or that we are retired, we're doing things our way as well. We're figuring things out and we're making it work for us. So how did the 60s kids get here? Well, we were born into an analog world and we became digital along the way. We adapted to every era over the decades. We went from rotary phones to smartphones. We went from vinyl to streaming, and nowadays sometimes back to vinyl, I guess. We went from handwritten letters to email to texts to emojis. A lot has changed over the decades, and we have walked through every part of that stage. If you think about it, we were the first generation that was brought up completely on television. We were also around when there was no seatbelts, if you remember that time. And we went from no internet to thriving in an internet world. We've learned to be flexible, and I think that's part of the reason why we're approaching retirement in a completely different way. It's not like we're fearing retirement because it's the end of something, but it's actually exciting to think about what the next chapter will bring for us. This is how we have been conditioned to be. For most of us, retirement is not the finish line. It truly is a new remix. It's a new chapter and something we're really excited about. And as we have done most of our lives since we were born, we want to make retirement different. We are the babies who have made our generation different. We've changed things dramatically over the decades. And it seems that it's in our DNA to do that as we retire as well. We're the generation that has had to reinvent itself along the way every single decade. Through recessions and layoffs and through caregiving, and of course through the technology changes that we experienced, we certainly aren't prepared now to just drive off into our golf carts and forget that the world exists. We're too used to changing lanes, and I don't know about you, but I believe we're also a generation that's a bit allergic to being told what to do. For us 60s kids, retirement isn't about stopping, it's about being different. It's about reinventing our world and maybe finally getting to do the things that we've always wanted to do. Start painting, or learn a new language, go travel, or even start a YouTube channel like I did. There's just so many opportunities and so many things that are open to us that just weren't there when our parents retired. It's opportunities that we're able to take advantage of if we want to. Our parents often viewed retirement as the end of their work identity, whereas I would say that our generation looks at retirement as freedom, the freedom to finally be who we want to be and to do the things that we want to do. And there are so many of them out there for us to experience. What is interesting is that though we may not have to work anymore, we still have that urge to stay relevant, and we're curious and we want to learn new things. For us, this is an opportunity to actually just shift and do something completely different. And the world is open. The world is completely open with opportunity for us to engage in something that maybe we've never done before. I also find that we want to do this in a peaceful and a meaningful way. We're tired of being tired and stressed. And so our retirement, it's not about not doing anything, and it's not about just kind of existing, but it's about engaging in activities and in things that interest us in a way that allows us to do it with a lot of peace and intention and with less stress. I think we're the first retirees that are truly riding the technology revolution. I'm sure we are the first retirees that actually say on a regular basis, I will Google that. We are the first generation of retirees that are managing our investments online, that are paying our bills with a simple tap, and that can send a photo instantly to whoever we want. Our photos of the grandchildren that we either have or will have don't exist in paper format anymore. We're getting them over text messages, we're getting them through Facebook, we're getting them through Instagram. We are so plugged in if you really think about it. We can FaceTime with our grandchildren or our own children if they live far away. And when they're gone, we can still have these personal relationships because we can see them and talk to them face to face, even if it is over the screen. Our parents never had that kind of luxury. My parents could maybe chat with my kids on the telephone, but they certainly couldn't see them face to face because they lived far away. And also now we are navigating the whole AI revolution. And instead of being scared of it, we are facing it head on. ChatGPT and other tools are just that. They're tools. We've had to go through this before. We had to live this change in technology that basically changed how we live and the jobs that we did. And so now we're doing it again, and we're okay because we've gone through it before. I think back to the very first computers that I learned on. They were these 50-pound beige boxes with horrible screens. And now we're doing everything on our iPhones or on our iPads. Also, if you really think about it, we are the generation that invented the internet. You think about the strides that have been made because of the ability to go on the internet. I would never know how to fix my toilet if I couldn't look at YouTube and see how someone else explains it and does it step by step. Of course, not everything about modern retirement is peachy. I mean, the financial roller coaster is real. Our parents had pensions. They had indexed pensions. Pensions that if inflation grew, the pension grew as well. They were able to pay their bills and finance their lifestyle on their pensions. For us, if you're American, you have 401ks, and in Canada, the same type of thing is called a defined benefit pension plan. All of these things are very unstable, especially when you look at our markets, which fluctuate wildly, even just day to day. We are the first generation where some of us are actually retiring with mortgages and debt. Part of that is because we are also the first, what I would term as consumer generation. We had available credit to us through credit cards, and we shopped, and we continue to shop. And so retirement, in some cases, will never look like our parents because we're carrying debt. The flip side of all of that is that all of these things have made us a little bit scrappy. And we have actually embraced the concept of the side gig and of doing things in our retirement that still allows us to retire, but perhaps it looks a little bit different than what our parents did. There is also social media and the internet, which some people think is like the Satan. And I don't actually believe that, because there are people out there that have an immense amount of knowledge to share. For those of you who are in debt and who have mortgages, there are so many people on YouTube who have been in that same place, and they have got through it, and they are happy to share how they did it. There are so many resources available to us on how to get through challenging times if we have debt and finances are tight in retirement. My retirement was planned. It was a long journey, and there were some sacrifices that were required to get to this place where I don't really have to work anymore. And even then, I'm doing this little side gig because, like a lot of people, I have grandchildren that live far away and travel is expensive. And so I need to accommodate that. And my motto is I will do what it takes, because that is how the decades of my life were. I'm used to that model. And I'm sure many of you are as well. And I'm sure that many of you are reinventing what retirement looks like. We are actually seeing retirement as a part of pop culture. If you look at the people that we grew up with, movie stars, think of Keanu Reeves, for example, who is probably my penultimate favorite movie star out there. And they are aging alongside us, and they are doing it in style. Now, I'm not saying that retirement has to be some crazy, wild thing. For some of us, it's simply being able to be in our own little cozy nests, reading a good book, sipping a cup of tea, meeting with friends, or doing these small everyday things. What makes it different is that we have a choice. We truly have a choice, and we have opportunities that the generation before us did not have. We don't really see 60 and 70 as old anymore. I mean, think about the fact that Mick Jagger is still performing in his 80s. Like, it's crazy. We have so many examples out there of people that were part of our culture, of our being in the 80s and in the 90s, and they're still out there and they're doing it. I also think of like Polina Poriskova, the supermodel. And she went through an extremely difficult time when her husband passed away. And she reinvented herself. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she just made something new of herself using social media. And though it's not something I would want to do, I really admire it when I see it. This is how us 60s kids were taught to be. We were made to believe that we could do anything. And so to this day, we are still doing it. I believe there's this really cool cultural shift happening, and aging doesn't mean fading. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be 30 and I don't want to act like I'm 30. What I want to show is that being 60 doesn't mean that life ends. If anything, being 60 means that you're doing new, different, and still exciting things, and you're doing things that make you happy. For 60s kids, retirement is not about retreat, but really it's about a shift, a very positive shift. We finally get to sleep in. There's no alarm clocks. There's no one telling us what to do. And sometimes there is a little bit of reinvention involved, depending on the circumstances that we're in. But we've been conditioned to handle this. We've been conditioned to thrive in an environment that's forever changing. I am not sure why this whole topic of retirement and looking at it more as part of pop culture, I guess, and of our particular birth group of the 1960s was kind of rolling around my brain. I think it's maybe because I'm coming on to a birthday soon and I tend to get a little bit introspective about aging and where I'm at in life. So please forgive me if this is kind of a whole bunch of thoughts that are just put out there. But anyways, I always like to look at the scope of the generations and where things are at. Anyways, this is it for me this week. Maybe give me some of your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you all next week at a regular time. Bye!